Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Loudguns, and today we're going to be taking a look at the new inventory features of 3.15. Inventory is getting a huge refresh in the next patch with the death of the infinite bag of holding and the introduction of location-tied storage. And there are also ramifications for death in that you'll lose your equipped items, so I think it's something really worth taking a dive into. I just want to say I'm sorry that the videos aren't as frequent as usual. We're still getting to grips with being responsible for a puppy, but he's hecka cute, so that makes up for it a lot. I'm rearranging things a bit, so we should be able to get back to scheduled programming soon. Just bear with me a little bit on that. And just before we get going, if you're looking into SC and think this might be the time with a wipe coming up for the new patch, then just make sure you use a referral code when you create your account, so it will just give you some extra starting cash. Mine's up on the screen now, but just make sure that you use somebody's. Also, if you're interested in finding new people to play with, then feel free to head over to the Frontier community on Discord. There's a link just down in the video description down below. So we're all about helping people get going in the game and letting folks experience gameplay as part of a bigger group. So if that sounds like something that might be fun for you, then please pop along and say hi. So the first thing you're going to notice when you load the game up for 3.15 is that you have no friends. You might actually have no friends, but for those of you that do, you'll notice the message in the bottom right telling you to set your primary residence before you're allowed to see them. So first we'll just need to create our character, fast forward this, but then we'll get to the primary residence selection screen. So first we're going to want to just select system. So the only system that we have available at the moment is the Stanton system, so that's an easy choice. But then from the select location, we've got Orison, which is definitely not Bespin. That's the main city on Crusader. Then we've also got Lawville, which is on Hurston. We've got Area 18 on ArcCorp. And we've got New Babbage, which is over on Microtech. So for the purposes of this video, I'm going to go with Area 18. And we'll just go for best on the server list. And we'll set that as our primary residence. We're going to get an "Are you sure?" warning because, as we'll see in this video, sort of this decision is a bit more important than it historically was. So, as per usual, sort of pre-3.15, you're going to wake up in the hab at the LZ that you've chosen. But now we can hit the I button to bring up the inventory, and we're going to see sort of a paper doll of our character, and we're going to see all our gubbins down the right-hand side. So I can click this filters button, and then I can just select just the undersuits, for instance, and I can see the options I have there. So if I right click, you'll see sort of equip won't let me because I've got a flight suit on already, but I can swap sort of that flight suit onto my character, and the one that I was wearing will now be in the inventory. And notice that that inventory is for Area 18. It's not a global inventory, it's tied to this location. You can also just drag items off your character and into the inventory and drag a new item on. But now if I want to just, for instance, look at my armors, I can click armor along the top, and I can start putting on my orange grey cat armor. That's currently my favorite in the game. So some of this is a little bit janky, but when you find the points that you can add a piece of armor to, you can drag it onto the character, or you can just double click to send that item to your character. It's also possible to right click and click equip, and that gets that onto your character as well. We could also hit sort to just rearrange the items to make it a bit easier to look through. But one of the useful tools is clicking this custom button. And then, for instance, if we don't want to look at all the armor pieces, just the backpacks, we can just tick that box for backpacks. And there's our 2 backpacks. That was a lot of consecutive backpacks to say. But interestingly, they're now a completely separate armor piece, so they can be equipped to any armors with an attachment point. Just hold down the right mouse button and swing your mouse around to view your character. Weapons also just sort of attach to any of the hard points that you find around your character, and the medical guns, they work in the same way. Interestingly, if we take a med pen, we'll see sort of that our armor has sort of 2-3 slots for med pens, and we can sort of add them to one of those slots. Gets pretty useful when you've got some of the new variety of med pens. Also, you'll notice over on the left that I've got sort of personal storage, so if I wanted to take my cuddly bedtime pal Pico with me, I can sort of drag him out of the inventory and put it into my backpack storage. Just bear in mind that anything in your storage is sort of at risk in the real world. So, you know, you don't necessarily want sort of your Pico to be to fall into the hands of some guy who kills you. But now let's just say we want to go shopping at one of ArcCorp's friendly gun stores. Maybe I want to pick up this assault rifle. You can still sort of inspect things off the shelf as you did previously. Disclaimer, recorded in the PTU, some of this is a little bit janky. But even with these quirks, I still think the shops in Star Citizen are one of the really cool features of the game. So if I just want to buy that, sort of as per usual, but previously, sort of when we confirmed the purchase, this would have gone to our global inventory and would be accessible from anywhere. Now it's going to go into the inventory of the location that we're at, so in this case, ArcCorp. So if you don't want to fiddle around with sort of buying stuff off the shelves, we can always come across to these terminals. So if we just maybe grab a couple of attachments for our assault rifle, maybe some ammo clips as well. Just bear in mind for the new players out there, so while there are physicalized items on the shelves of all the shops, they don't necessarily show every item that's available. So the terminals are usually worth checking out just to make sure that you're not missing some stuff. If you can't find it on the shelves, it's probably in the terminal. So if I just buy one of these suppressors, and then I'll also just search through for a bit of ammo as well. This is one of the ones which gets in the way of new players quite a lot. Sort of, I find a lot of new players asking me where on earth they can buy magazines for their guns. It's always in the personal weapons under attachments. So there's our P4 AR magazine. Just add sort of 5 of those, and we'll buy it. Careful not to hit the max button, or you'll end up with thousands of clips in your inventory. So now if we open up the inventory again and go to the weapons, we've got our P4AR in the Area 18 inventory. So I can just grab that shotgun off the back of my character and I'll store it there in the Area 18 inventory. And I'm going to drag my assault rifle on. So some of this modeling doesn't go particularly well on the character, but I can grab the suppressor as well and put it onto the sort of attachment slot on the rifle itself. If I go to ammo, I can sort of right click and equip one, but I'm just going to double click these to get these attached to my character. And then if we sort of take a look around the character from the front, there are those mags sort of to the utility belt that comes with this armor. Different armor will have sort of different capacities to carry different numbers of magazines, etc. So through the magic of video editing, I'm now up at Bikini Point, the space station which orbits above Area 18. And it's worth knowing that your inventory down planet side will always be accessible from the orbital space stations. Not all space stations, but just those ones above the major landing zones. So if I want to sort of have a quick costume change and look fabulous, you know, Gators, this one's for you, mate. Then I can just access my my inventory that's currently planet side down on ArcCorp. So this is a good thing for if you need to quickly change over sort of the equipment that you're running with. You don't have to fly all the way down to the LZ to access your planet-side inventory. You've obviously got a finite amount of storage on your character, so one of the additional things that you can do is actually box up a piece of your inventory so that you can carry it around. And that's also particularly useful for if you want to actually give an item to an orc mate. So if I sort of select this torso piece, right-click on it and grab, you can also drag it into your player's hands. It'll have a little think, but then ultimately my character's going to pull out a box with core armor on it. So I can then this is physicalized in my hands. I can then sort of walk this around and I can place it on a ship or give it to an orc mate to loot, so they can take the piece off me, which is something that Star Citizen has been missing up until this point, really. So vehicles themselves also have inventories. So you'll notice at the top right now that I've got a vehicle tab as well as the local tab because I'm on my 600i within the hangar at Bikini Point. So if I just grab this leg armor, for instance, then I can switch over to the vehicle tab from the local tab. And I can drag that leg armor into the storage of my 600i. So this is great because it means that sort of if we're heading somewhere cold, say, we might not wear our Novichok armor because it's too heavy, sort of all the way there. But we might want to pop Novichok armor into the hold of the ship so that we have it when we get there, that we can change into it. Of course, though, you've got to bear in mind that if something happens to the ship and you blow up, then all of the loot that you've got sort of on board the ship is also going to be lost. So this is going to get people thinking about sort of making sure that they do take all of the stuff that they're going to need, but you get away from relying on the infinite bag of holding. So, you're not going to just be walking around all of the time with everything you could possibly need. Forces players to really sort of put a bit more planning into a mission, which some people are going to hate, but I personally, as a self-proclaimed veteran of a lot of survival games, this is the sort of thing I absolutely love. You've got to really actually sort of strategize what you're going to do in a play session and what sort of gear you're going to need before you head out. Of course, this is going to get quite messy, particularly with so much inventory building up at different places. So thankfully, we've got a new Mobbyglass app for it, which is called NikNax. Great name, CIG. My personal vote would have been for Gubbins, but hey-ho, can't win them all. But if we open up the locations here, then we'll see sort of what loot we've got at what different location. And we've got a bit of a description about it as well, so if you're not quite sure what the different sort of armor types or weapon types do, you can also just rely on sort of the descriptions here. Unfortunately, sort of this is at the point where all of my gear's at area 18, so let's do a little bit more video editing magic. And voila, I've been on a bit of a shopping spree, and I've got some items sort of spread around the verse a bit. And you'll notice as well that this also tracks the location of your ships, so you don't have to go to the ASOP terminals and rely on those to know where your vehicles are claimed. So this is all just going to feed into that planning element of sort of what of your stuff is where, what bits do we need for this particular mission that we're going to go on. All right, so we'll have to put a bit of preparation into it. We'll have to go and make sure we've got the stuff sort of all in the ship at the ready before we head out and go and do that thing we're going to try and do this evening. So inventory is going to be a huge shake-up, and I know that some people are going to hate it. Would much prefer to see the infinite bag of holding stay around forever. But I think it's an element of the game that's really cool to see in action, and that it'll help Star Citizen move along into a proper PvP VE MMO. So some people are going to be worried about losing pieces such as their subscriber loot, and currently if you die with them on, they do go, but please bear in mind that a character reset will see them back in your inventory, and you ultimately will have those items in your inventory sort of every time we get a patch, and certainly at launch. So CIG have not stolen your goods. I'd imagine in the future CIG will work on a better way around this, such as maybe a cosmetics vendor where you can buy back sub-items for in-game cash if you lose them. But they'll have to problem solve around that a bit. If I can buy back my orange grey cat armor, for instance, what's to stop me from letting my entire org shoot me, which I'm sure they would absolutely love, loot my gear and wait for me to buy back the item before we just do it again. So mechanics like that could really hurt CIG's bottom line and ultimately reduce funding for the game. All I can say is maybe that's a problem for another day, but I just don't want anybody to be really worrying about it just at this point. One thing which does really add to the game is that items like guns and armor now have some value. Since they represent a cash sink, if you die with those items equipped, you're going to lose them, you're going to have to buy some more. And that in turn will make looting NPCs like the ones you find during bunker missions valuable. So unfortunately, you're not able to sell items like those to an in-game vendor just yet. But a recent topic of discussion between me and our org's quartermaster was offering our members cash in exchange for any weapons they can bring us, just so that we can build up a bit of an org armory for when we run PvP events. We'll probably have one ship which we just store a load of guns on, so that if we decide to have a bit of an FPS night, the guys can just go and grab some guns out of that particular ship before we head out. But anyway, I hope that was a useful little intro to inventory for you. And if it did help out and you think I've earned it, then please consider hitting subscribe to the channel and sharing with your friends. It really does go a long way. But with all that said, thank you very much for watching all the way to the end, and I look forward to seeing you next time.